Hôm
When
nay anh trông
Miranda
thật
Cole
đặc biệt.
closed her office door that Tuesday afternoon, Ethan Ward thought he was being fired. Instead, his CEO looked him in the eye and said 5 words that detonated his carefully controlled world. "I'm pregnant. The baby's yours." Almost 3 months ago, one unplanned night, now consequences neither of them saw coming. For a single father who'd already lost one woman he loved, this wasn't just complicated. It was impossible. But Ethan Ward didn't run from impossible. He'd learned long ago that some battles you face head-on even when the entire world is watching. The corner office on the 42nd floor had floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the Chicago skyline. Ethan stood in front of Miranda's desk, his portfolio tucked under one arm, mentally reviewing the quarterly reports he'd submitted that morning. The numbers were solid. His team had exceeded projections by 18%. There was no logical reason for this summons, which meant it was either very good news or catastrophically bad. Miranda didn't look up immediately. She was reading something on her tablet, her expression unreadable behind those designer frames she wore when she meant business. At 39, she commanded Vanguard Solutions with the kind of quiet authority that made men twice her age defer without question. Ethan had worked under her for 4 years, and he'd learned to read her moods by the set of her shoulders, the angle of her chin. Today, those shoulders were tense in a way he'd never seen before. "Close the door, Ethan." His hand found the handle, automatically pulling it shut with a soft click that seemed too loud in the suddenly airless room. Through the glass walls, he could see the rest of the executive floor continuing its usual rhythm. Assistants moving between cubicles, senior managers hunched over laptops, the familiar choreography of corporate efficiency. None of them could hear what happened in this room. Miranda had made sure of that when she'd had it soundproof 3 years ago. She finally looked up, and Ethan felt something cold settle in his chest. This wasn't her executive face, the one she wore in board meetings and contract negotiations. This was something else entirely, something human and uncertain, and completely unlike the woman who'd built a tech consulting empire from a garage startup. "Sit down." Ethan sat. The leather chair was expensive and ergonomic, designed for comfort during long strategy sessions. Right now, it felt like a witness stand. Miranda removed her glasses, setting them carefully on the desk between them. She folded her hands and unfolded them, picked up a pen, put it down. Ethan had seen her negotiate multi-million-dollar deals without a single wasted gesture. This hesitation was more alarming than any anger would have been. "I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to let me finish before you respond." "All right." She took a breath, held it, released it slowly. "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air between them, solid as something you could touch. Ethan's mind went immediately to logistics, maternity leave, interim leadership, how this would affect the merger talks with the Seattle firm. It was a reflex, the way his brain always jumped to problem-solving mode when presented with new information. Then Miranda spoke again, and every logical thought evaporated. "The baby's yours." For a moment, just a heartbeat, Ethan thought he'd misheard. But Miranda's eyes held his, steady and unflinching, and he knew she'd said exactly what he thought she'd said. Denver, the industry conference. Almost 3 months ago, though, the timeline felt both impossibly distant and frighteningly close. The hotel bar, after the final panel, when they'd both been exhausted and honest, in a way they never were in the office. The conversation that had stretched past midnight, fueled by whiskey and the strange intimacy of being away from the roles they wore like armor. The kiss that had surprised them both. The walk to her room that had felt inevitable and terrifying and completely unlike anything Ethan had done since Diane died. They'd agreed the next morning over awkward coffee that it had been a mistake. Not because it wasn't good. It had been startlingly, dangerously good. But because they worked together. Because the power dynamic was impossible. Because they were both too old and too scarred to pretend casual meant anything other than complicated. They'd flown home on separate flights, returned to the office, never spoke of it again. Ethan had convinced himself it was a closed chapter, a moment of weakness that could be filed away and forgotten. Apparently, biology had other plans. How far along? His voice sounded strange to his own ears, too calm, like he was asking about a project deadline. 11 weeks. I found out 6 days ago. Miranda's hands were clasped so tightly on the desk that her knuckles had gone white. "I've been to 2 doctors. Both confirmed it. I wanted to be absolutely certain before I said anything." Ethan's mind raced through calculations. 11 weeks meant she was almost through the first trimester. The high-risk period, though he hated himself for thinking in those terms. This wasn't a liability to be managed. This was a child. His child. I need you to understand something. Miranda's voice was carefully controlled, each word chosen with precision. I'm not asking you for anything. Not money, not involvement, not even acknowledgement. I'm telling you because you deserve to know, but I don't expect anything to change. I'm fully prepared to handle this alone. The words sparked something hot in Ethan's chest. You think I'd walk away? I think you're a single father with a 7-year-old daughter and a career you've built through incredible discipline. Miranda's expression didn't change, but her voice softened slightly. I think this is probably the last thing you need in your life right now, and I wouldn't blame you for wanting to pretend this conversation never happened. Ethan stood abruptly, walked to the windows because he needed to move, needed to do something with the energy suddenly coursing through him. Below, the city stretched out in geometric precision, streets and buildings and lives intersecting in patterns that made sense from up here. Down there, in the actual mess of human existence, nothing was ever this clear. I lost my wife when Sophie was 6 months old. He didn't turn around. The facts came out flat the way they always did when he spoke about Diane. Breast cancer. She was diagnosed when Sophie was 3 months, dead before our daughter's first birthday. Emotion was a luxury he'd learned to lock away when it came to those memories. Do you know what I remember most from that time? Miranda didn't answer. Ethan turned to face her. I remember the look in Diane's eyes when she knew she was dying. Not fear for herself, fear that Sophie would grow up without a mother, fear that I'd have to do this alone. Her last coherent words to me were, "Don't let her forget me." He moved back to the chair but didn't sit. I've spent 6.5 years being both parents, learning to braid hair and pack lunches and explain why mommy can't come to the school play. Sophie has asked me exactly once why she doesn't have a mother like other kids. And I had to tell my 6-year-old daughter that sometimes people we love get sick and don't get better. His hands had curled into fists. He forced them open, forced his voice level. So no, Miranda, I'm not walking away. I don't care how complicated this is or how it looks or what it means for our careers. There's a child coming who's going to need a father, and I know exactly what happens when a kid grows up with only one parent because the other one isn't there. I won't let that happen. Not again. Not ever. The silence that followed was absolute. Miranda stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language, like his response had been so far outside her expectations that she needed time to translate it. Ethan, you don't have to. Yes, I do. He sat down again, leaning forward. Tell me what you need. I don't need anything. That's not an answer. You're 11 weeks pregnant. Have you told anyone else? No, I wanted to tell you first. Miranda looked away. I don't know what I thought, that you'd need time to process it, that maybe you'd want to discuss options. Options? The word tasted bitter. You mean termination. I mean that this is early enough that all possibilities are still on the table, and I wanted you to know that whatever decision gets made, it's not your burden to carry. Miranda's voice was steady, but Ethan could hear the strain underneath. I'm financially secure. I have excellent health insurance. I can provide for this child without disrupting your life. Ethan felt something crack in his chest. Do you want this baby? The question hung between them, naked and essential. Miranda's composure finally fractured. Her eyes went bright with something that might have been tears, though she didn't let them fall. I'm 39 years old. I've spent 20 years building a company. I've never wanted children, never saw them fitting into my life. I've been on birth control since I was 16. Never missed a pill. Never had a scare. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Apparently, antibiotics can interfere with hormonal contraceptives. I had a sinus infection in Denver. Took a Z-Pack. Didn't think anything of it because, why would I? She trailed off, looking down at her hands. And now, Ethan prompted gently, and now I can't stop thinking about it. About this little cluster of cells that's going to become a person. A person who will have your eyes maybe, or my stubbornness. A person who didn't ask to exist, but exists anyway because two adults made a decision one night without considering all the variables. Miranda looked up at him. I don't know if I want this baby, Ethan. I know I should. I know the right answer is supposed to be clear. But I'm terrified and confused and completely out of my depth, and I hate feeling this way. Ethan understood that feeling. He lived it when Diane got diagnosed, when the doctors had laid out treatment options that all sounded like different flavors of hopeless. When he'd had to make decisions about his wife's body, her suffering, her final months, knowing that every choice might be the wrong one. You don't have to decide everything today, but I need you to hear me. Whatever you choose, you're not doing it alone. If you decide to continue this pregnancy I'm in, fully, completely, not as an obligation or a burden, but as a father who wants to be there. He paused. And if you decide you can't do this, I'll support that too. But I need to be part of the conversation. This isn't just happening to you. Miranda's laugh was shaky. You're taking this remarkably well. I'm not. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. I'm absolutely losing my mind. I just happen to be very good at compartmentalizing. Give me about 3 hours and I'll probably have a complete breakdown in my car. That's fair. Miranda returned the smile, tentative but genuine. I'm scheduling my first real appointment for next week. Ultrasound, full workup. Do you want to be there? Yes, the answer came without hesitation. Text me the details. I'll clear my schedule. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of what they'd said settling around them like dust after an explosion. Through the glass walls, Ethan could see Garrett Thompson walking past with a stack of files, oblivious to the fact that two lives had just realigned. We should talk about work eventually, about how this affects our positions here. Later, Ethan stood. Right now, you need to process this, and I need to figure out how to tell my 7-year-old that she's going to be a big sister. Miranda's eyes widened. You're going to tell Sophie? She's my daughter. I don't keep things from her. Not the important stuff. Ethan moved toward the door, then paused with his hand on the handle. I learned with Diane that kids can handle a lot more truth than we think. It's the lies and the secrets that damage them. What if she hates me? What if she resents the baby? Sophie's the most empathetic person I know. She cried for a week when her goldfish died. Ethan looked back at Miranda. Give her some credit, and give yourself some too. You're stronger than you think. I run a Fortune 500 company, Ethan. I know I'm strong. That's not the kind
Hôm nay anh
strength
trông
I'm
thật đặc
talking
biệt.
about. He left before she could respond. The playground at Sophie's school was mostly empty when Ethan arrived for pickup. He was early, deliberately so. He needed time to compose himself to figure out what he was going to say. Through the chain-link fence, he could see the second graders streaming out of the building, a chaotic river of backpacks and shouting. Sophie spotted him immediately. She always did. His daughter had an uncanny ability to find him in any crowd, some combination of hyper-awareness and love that never failed to make his chest ache. She waved, her blonde ponytail bouncing as she ran toward the gate. Dad, guess what happened in math today? Ethan caught her as she barreled into his legs, lifting her into a hug that she was probably getting too old for but hadn't outgrown yet. She smelled like pencil shavings and the strawberry shampoo she'd insisted on buying last week. What happened in math, sweetheart? Mr. Peterson let me explain fractions to the whole class because I got all the problems right, and he said I was a natural teacher. Can you be a teacher when you're also a scientist? Because I still want to study space, but maybe I could teach other people about space too. You can be anything you want as long as you work hard and stay curious. They walked to the car hand in hand. Sophie chattered about her day and the way she did when something good had happened. Ethan let her talk, using the familiar rhythm of her voice to steady himself. This was his life. School pickups and homework help and bedtime stories. Simple things that had somehow become sacred in the years since Diane died. Now he was about to complicate everything. He waited until they were home, until Sophie had hung up her backpack and washed her hands and was settled at the kitchen table with her afternoon snack, apple slices and peanut butter, carefully arranged the way she liked. Ethan sat across from her, watching her dip an apple slice with surgical precision. Bug, I need to talk to you about something important. Sophie looked up, instantly alert. At 7, she already had Diane's intuition. That ability to read the emotional temperature of a room and respond accordingly. Her eyes searched his face. Are you sick? No, honey. Nothing like that. Ethan reached across the table, covering her small hand with his. Do you remember a few months ago when I went to that conference in Denver? I was gone for 4 days. Sophie nodded slowly. You brought me back a snow globe. That's right. Well, while I was there, I spent time with Miss Cole. You remember her? She's my boss. You met her at the company picnic last summer. The lady with the pretty watch. Sophie's brow furrowed. Did something bad happen? No, not bad, just unexpected. Ethan took a breath. This was harder than he'd anticipated, and he'd anticipated it being nearly impossible. Miss Cole and I became very close friends during that trip, and now she's going to have a baby. The baby is going to be my child, which means it's going to be your little brother or sister. He watched his daughter process this. Her face cycled through confusion, surprise, and something that might have been calculation. Sophie was frighteningly smart for her age, capable of making connections that sometimes startled him. But instead of excitement, her face went very still. Is Miss Cole going to be my new mom? No, sweetheart. Miss Cole and I aren't married. We're not even dating. But we're going to work together to take care of this baby the same way I take care of you. Sophie set down her apple slice. When she looked up, her eyes were filling with tears. Will the baby live with us? Will I have to share my room? The questions came out small and careful, each one weighted with fear Ethan hadn't anticipated. We'll figure that out, Bug, and you'll be busy with the baby all the time like Amanda's parents were busy with her baby brother. Amanda said they forgot about her for weeks. The fear in her voice broke something in Ethan's chest. He came around the table, immediately kneeling beside her chair, so they were eye level. Sophie, listen to me. I will never, ever forget about you. You're my daughter, my first girl, the person who made me a father and taught me what real love means. Nothing, not a new baby, not Miss Cole, not anything in this entire world will ever change that. But you'll love the baby too. It wasn't quite a question. Yes, I will. And that's okay because love doesn't work like a pizza where you only have so many slices to give out. Ethan searched for the right words. Love is more like light. The more you share it, the brighter it gets. When this baby comes, I'm going to love them. But it won't take anything away from what I feel for you. Do you understand? Promise, I promise, with Bemon. Ethan pulled her into his arms, feeling her small frame against his chest. You're always going to be my number one. And how about this? Every Saturday morning, you and I have special with time, just us. No baby, no Miss Cole. Our tradition. We can go get pancakes, go to the park, visit the science museum, whatever you want. That's our time. Does that help? Sophie was quiet for a long moment, her face pressed against his shoulder. When she finally pulled back, she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Every Saturday, even when the baby is crying or Miss Cole needs help. Every Saturday, no matter what. You come first. You always will. She hugged him tighter. Okay? Deal. But then she asked, her voice very small, is Miss Cole scared about having the baby? The question surprised him. Why would you think that? Because when Amanda's mom had a baby last year, Amanda said her mom cried a lot before it came. She said having babies is scary even when you want them. Sophie tilted her head, studying him with those two wise eyes. Does Miss Cole want the baby? Ethan sat back on his heels, struck by his daughter's insight. Out of everything they'd discussed, Sophie had zeroed in on the one question that mattered most. I think she's figuring that out. Honestly, having a baby is a big change, and sometimes big changes are scary even for grown-ups. You should tell her it's going to be okay. You're really good at being a dad. You can help her learn. Something in Ethan's throat went tight. You're pretty amazing, you know that? Sophie grinned, some of her natural brightness returning. I know. Can I have more apple slices? Yes, you can. He got up, moving to the counter to cut more fruit. Behind him, Sophie had already returned to her snack, the crisis apparently resolved in her 7-year-old mind. If only adult problems were so easily solved. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from Miranda. Appointment scheduled for next Wednesday, 2 p.m. I'll send you the address. Ethan typed back quickly. I'll be there. Another buzz. Thank you for everything you said today. I didn't expect. She didn't finish the sentence. Ethan waited, but no follow-up came. He understood. There were things too complicated to put into words, feelings too new to articulate. They'd figure it out. They had to. That night after Sophie was asleep, Ethan stood in the doorway of her room, watching her breathe. She looked so small under her star-patterned comforter, her blonde hair spread across the pillow. She'd wanted to keep her nightlight on the one shaped like the moon that Diane had bought years ago. It cast soft shadows across the walls, familiar and comforting. 6.5 years of this. 6.5 years of being everything Sophie needed, of making every decision alone, of carrying the full weight of parenthood on his shoulders. He'd gotten good at it, better than he'd ever imagined possible when Diane died and left him drowning in grief and terror. Now there would be another child, another set of midnight feedings and first words and skinned knees, another person depending on him to get it right. But this time he wouldn't be completely alone. Miranda would be there. And while they weren't together, while this wasn't the family structure he'd imagined when Diane was alive, and they'd talked about having more kids someday, it was something. A partnership built on honesty and mutual respect, and a shared commitment to doing right by this child they'd created. It would have to be enough. His phone buzzed again. Another text from Miranda. "I can't sleep. Keep thinking about everything." He stepped out into the hallway, closing Sophie's door quietly. "Me too. Did you tell Sophie?" "Yes." "How did she take it?" Ethan thought about his daughter's tears, her fear of being replaced, the way she'd asked if Miranda was scared. "She asked if you were scared." A long pause, then, "What did you say? That you're figuring things out, that big changes are scary for everyone." "I am scared. Terrified, actually." Miranda's honesty came through even in text form. "I've run this company through 3 economic downturns and a hostile takeover attempt, and none of that was as frightening as seeing those 2 lines on the pregnancy test." Ethan sat down on the top step, phone in hand. "Fear means you understand what's at stake. That's not a bad thing. How are you so calm about this?" "I'm not calm. I'm just practiced at functioning while terrified. 6 years of single parenthood will do that." "I don't know how to be a mother, Ethan. I don't have the first clue." He thought about Diane, about how she'd been so naturally good with Sophie from the moment she was born. How she'd made it look effortless even when Ethan knew she was exhausted. Even when the cancer was eating her alive from the inside. But he also thought about himself. About those first terrible months after she died when he'd had to learn everything from scratch. How to soothe a crying infant at 3 in the morning. How to make bottles and change diapers and sing lullabies in his rough, off-key voice. How to be enough when he felt like nothing. Nobody knows how to be a parent until they are one. You learn, you make mistakes, you try again, and somehow the kid turns out okay. Sophie's more than okay. She's extraordinary. She's a good kid, takes after her mom. Another pause. "I'm glad you told her that she didn't hate the idea." She asked if she could help take care of the baby, said she'd teach them about space and fractions. "She's 7. She's 7 going on 30. Trust me, by the time this baby arrives, she'll have a whole curriculum planned out." He could almost hear Miranda's laugh through the screen. "I'm going to try to sleep. Thank you for today, for not running. I meant what I said. You're not alone in this. Good night, Ethan." "Good night." He sat there for a while longer, phone dark in his hand, listening to the quiet sounds of his house, the refrigerator humming downstairs, the old furnace clicking as it cycled, Sophie's soft breathing through her closed door. 7 months from now, maybe less, if the baby came early, all of this would change. His carefully constructed life. The routines he'd built to keep himself and Sophie stable. The balance he'd worked so hard to maintain. All of it would shift to accommodate this new person who didn't even exist yet in any tangible way. Ethan thought about Miranda's face in that office, about the fear underneath her composure. He thought about Sophie's question, "Is she scared?" Yeah, she was scared. So was he. But fear had never stopped him before. It hadn't stopped him when Diane got sick, when the doctors said there was nothing more they could do. It hadn't stopped him when he'd held his newborn daughter for the first time after her mother died, when he'd looked into those tiny, trusting eyes and promised to be enough for her. It wouldn't stop him now. The morning came too quickly, bringing with it the sharp reality that nothing had been a dream. Ethan moved through the routine on autopilot, making breakfast, checking homework, braiding hair that never quite looked as neat as when Diane had done it. Sophie chattered about her science project, something involving plants and sunlight, and Ethan nodded in the right places while his mind circled back to Miranda. He dropped Sophie at school, watched her run toward her friends with that effortless joy only children seem to possess, then sat in his car for a full minute before starting the engine. The drive to Vanguard Solutions took 32 minutes in morning traffic. 32 minutes to prepare himself for walking into that building and pretending everything was normal when his entire world had tilted sideways. Miranda's office was dark when he passed it. Her assistant Kelly looked up from her desk with a polite smile. "Mr. Ward, Ms. Cole called in this morning.
Hôm
She
nay anh
won't be
trông
in
thật
until
đặc
after
biệt.
lunch." Ethan felt something tighten in his chest. "Is she all right?" Kelly's expression flickered with curiosity. "She didn't say, just asked me to reschedule her morning meetings." "Thank you." Ethan continued to his office, closing the door behind him before pulling out his phone. "Everything okay?" Miranda's response came 5 minutes later. "Morning sickness. Apparently it doesn't just happen in the morning. I'll be in by 1. Do you need anything?" "Ginger tea and a time machine." Despite everything, Ethan smiled. "I can only get one of those at the store. I'll have Kelly stock your office with ginger tea." "You don't have to do that." "I know." He forwarded the request to Kelly without explanation, then forced himself to focus on work. The quarterly analysis wouldn't write itself, and he had a presentation to the board next week that needed to be flawless. By noon, he'd made a decision. The deli 3 blocks from Vanguard Solutions made the best chicken soup in Chicago. Ethan had discovered it during Sophie's bout with flu last winter, and the recipe had become his go-to comfort food. He ordered 2 containers, one plain, one with extra vegetables along with fresh bread and more ginger tea than one person could reasonably drink. He was back at his desk by 12:30, the food carefully packed in an insulated bag that he tucked under his desk. At 1:15, Kelly's voice came through the office intercom system with the announcement that Miss Cole had arrived. Ethan gave her 20 minutes to settle, then picked up the bag and headed down the hall. He knocked on Miranda's door despite it being open. She looked up from her computer, and even from across the room, he could see the exhaustion etched into her features. Her skin had a grayish cast. Her eyes were rimmed with red. She'd clearly tried to cover it with makeup, but the effort had only partially succeeded. "I brought lunch." Miranda's expression cycled through surprise, suspicion, and something that might have been gratitude. "You didn't have to do that." "I know. Can I come in?" She hesitated, then nodded. Ethan entered, closing the door behind him, set the bag on the small table by her window, unpacked the containers, methodically arranging them like a peace offering. "Chicken soup, plain broth if your stomach can't handle anything else, or vegetables if you're feeling ambitious. Bread, ginger tea, and saltines because my research this morning said they help with nausea." Miranda stared at the spread. "You researched morning sickness." "I researched everything. Morning sickness, prenatal nutrition, first trimester symptoms, warning signs that require immediate medical attention." Ethan pulled out a chair. "I might have gone overboard, but I needed to feel useful." "Ethan, you are not responsible for taking care of me." "I know that too." He sat down, meeting her eyes. "But I want to. Is that all right?" The question hung between them. Miranda looked away, first her fingers drumming against her desk in a nervous pattern he'd never seen from her before. "I threw up 6 times this morning, 6 times. I couldn't keep water down. I had to cancel a meeting with investors because I was afraid I'd vomit in the middle of their pitch." She laughed without humor. "This is going to be my life for the next 7 months. Longer if I count recovery time and breastfeeding and all the other things I know nothing about." Ethan pushed the plain broth toward her. "Try this. Small sips." Miranda eyed it skeptically but picked up the spoon. The first sip went down carefully. She waited clearly, bracing for her stomach to rebel. When nothing happened, she took another. Sophie had colic for the first 3 months. She screamed for hours every night. Nothing helped. Not rocking, not music, not anything the pediatrician suggested. Ethan leaned back, letting the memory surface. "Diane and I took turns walking her around the apartment at 2 in the morning, both of us crying almost as hard as she was. Then one night I was so exhausted I couldn't even think straight, and I just started talking. Didn't matter what about. I told her about my day, about the weather, about the plot of whatever movie I'd seen last, and she stopped crying. He smiled at the memory. Turns out she just wanted to hear a voice. Miranda took another sip of soup. What's your point? My point is that everyone struggles with this. The pregnancy, the infant phase, all of it. Nobody knows what they're doing. You just figure it out as you go. He leaned forward. And you're not doing it alone. I meant that. We work together, Ethan. This is complicated enough without blurring professional boundaries. Then we set boundaries. Clear ones. Ethan counted on his fingers. At work, you're my boss. I'm your senior analyst. We're professional and appropriate. Outside of work, we're two people preparing for a child, co-parents. We communicate, we make decisions together, and we support each other. And if people find out, the question was inevitable. Ethan had spent half the night considering it. Then they find out. We're adults. We're not doing anything wrong. I'm your superior, Ethan. There are power dynamics to consider, HR policies. The fact that this could look like favoritism or worse. Miranda set down her spoon. If this becomes public, it could damage both our careers. Yours especially. Ethan had considered all of this. I've survived worse than office gossip. This isn't gossip. This is a potential scandal. Miranda's voice took on the crisp, analytical tone she used in board meetings. The CEO sleeping with a subordinate, getting pregnant, continuing to work together while expecting a child. The optics are terrible. The board will have questions. Competitors will use it against us. And you'll be the one who takes the bigger hit because that's how these things work. Ethan had considered all of this. So what's your solution? We hide it? Pretend nothing happened? I don't know. I don't have a solution. I'm just trying to think through all the variables. Miranda pressed her fingers to her temples. Stop thinking and eat your soup. She looked at him startled. Then impossibly she laughed. A real laugh, not the bitter sound from earlier. You're very bossy for someone who reports to me. Only about food and prenatal care. Everything else you're in charge. Miranda picked up her spoon again, and they sat in companionable silence while she worked through the broth. Ethan watched the color slowly return to her face, the tension in her shoulders ease slightly. When she reached for the bread, he felt a small surge of victory. Better, better, this is good soup. Deli on Fifth Street, I'll write down the name. Miranda tore off a piece of bread, chewing thoughtfully. You really did research, didn't you? The morning sickness remedies. I have a 7-year-old. Research is my default response to uncertainty. Ethan pulled out his phone, scrolling to the notes he'd compiled. Ginger helps with nausea. Small, frequent meals are better than large ones. Avoid strong smells. Stay hydrated, even if you can't keep food down. Vitamin B6 supplements can reduce symptoms, but check with your doctor first. And if you're throwing up more than 3 times a day or can't keep liquids down, you need to call your OB because severe morning sickness can lead to dehydration. Miranda stared at him. You made a list. I made several lists. This is just the morning sickness one. He scrolled further. I also have lists for prenatal vitamins, first trimester exercises, warning signs of complications, and recommended baby gear, though that last one might be premature. Ethan, why are you doing this? The question came out quiet, almost vulnerable. He looked up from his phone. Because you asked if I wanted to be involved, and I said yes, this is what involvement looks like. But we're not together. We're not building a relationship. We're building something. Maybe not a romance, but something. A partnership, a team, whatever you want to call it. Ethan set down his phone. Sophie asked me last night if you were scared, and I realized that scared people shouldn't have to be alone. So I'm showing up. That's all this is. Miranda's eyes were bright again, but this time she didn't look away. I've spent 20 years being self-sufficient. I built this company from nothing. I've never needed anyone to take care of me. I know, but needing and accepting are different things. Ethan stood gathering the empty containers. I'm not trying to take over or fix you or treat you like you're fragile. I'm just offering support. You can take it or leave it, and if you leave it, I'll respect that, but I'll keep offering. He was at the door when Miranda spoke again. Ethan, thank you for the soup and the lists and for not treating this like it's only my problem to solve. He turned back. It's not your problem. It's our situation. There's a difference. The rest of the week passed in a blur of work and preparation. Ethan found himself researching pregnancy at 39, understanding the risks, trying to be ready for complications. He told Marcus, his brother-in-law, who'd become his closest confidant after Diane died. Marcus had listened without judgment, offered practical help with Sophie, and reminded Ethan that he wasn't facing this alone. Wednesday arrived with the weight of a deadline. Ethan had blocked his entire afternoon telling his team he had an important personal matter to attend to. He met Miranda in the lobby of the medical building, both of them awkward in a way they never were at the office. "You came." Surprise colored her voice. "I said I would." They rode the elevator to the third floor in silence. The waiting room was painted in soft blues and greens, clearly designed to be calming. Other women sat in various stages of pregnancy, some alone, some with partners, one with what looked like her entire extended family. Ethan and Miranda checked in at the desk, then found seats in the corner. "I've never been this nervous before a meeting," Miranda admitted quietly. Ethan reached over and took her hand. The gesture surprised them both, but he didn't pull away. "It's going to be fine." "You don't know that?" "No, but I believe it anyway." When the nurse called Miranda's name, she stood, then looked at Ethan questioningly. He stood too. Together, they followed the nurse down a hallway lined with educational posters about fetal development and breastfeeding. The exam room was small but efficient. The nurse took Miranda's vitals, asked a series of questions about her medical history, then smiled at them both. "Dr. Patel will be right in. Congratulations, by the way." After she left, Miranda changed into a hospital gown while Ethan studied the fetal development chart on the wall with intense focus. At 11 weeks, the baby was about the size of a fig, had fingers and toes, could swallow and yawn. "You can turn around." Miranda was sitting on the exam table, the gown making her look smaller somehow, more vulnerable than he'd ever seen her. Dr. Patel knocked before entering, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an efficient manner. She shook both their hands, then pulled up a rolling stool. "So, first pregnancy at 39. You're in good health. No major medical concerns. Your initial blood work looks excellent. How are you feeling?" "Nauseous, exhausted, emotional. All completely normal. The first trimester is usually the hardest in terms of symptoms." Dr. Patel glanced at Ethan. "And you're the father?" "Yes." "Good. Partner support makes a tremendous difference. Let's take a look at this baby, shall we?" The ultrasound machine looked like something from a science fiction movie. Dr. Patel squeezed gel onto Miranda's abdomen, then pressed the wand against her skin. The screen flickered to life, showing shapes and shadows that Ethan couldn't immediately interpret. Then Dr. Patel adjusted something, and there it was. A tiny figure curled in on itself, a flickering spot that the doctor identified as the heartbeat. Arms and legs beginning to take shape, a head that looked disproportionately large. "There's your baby," Dr. Patel measured, her voice warm. "Measuring right on track for 11 weeks. Heartbeat is strong and steady at 162 beats per minute. Everything looks exactly as it should." Ethan couldn't breathe. He'd seen the ultrasounds before, dozens of them, during Diane's pregnancy with Sophie. But this was different. This was his child. This impossible microscopic person who'd been created by accident
Hôm nay
and
anh
was
trông thật
now
đặc biệt.
undeniably real. Miranda's hand found his and squeezed hard. "Would you like to hear the heartbeat?" Dr. Patel asked. Miranda nodded, unable to speak. Suddenly, the room filled with sound, rapid whooshing like horses galloping, fast and strong and insistent. Proof of life. Ethan felt his throat close up. Beside him, Miranda made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "That's our baby." Her whisper was reverent. "That's our baby." Ethan confirmed, his voice rough. Dr. Patel let them listen for a long moment before adjusting the wand to take measurements. She printed out several images, handing them to Miranda with a smile. "I'm moving your due date slightly based on the measurements. July 23rd, but babies come when they want to come, so anywhere from mid-July to early August is normal." She made notes on her tablet. "I want to see you back in 4 weeks for your next checkup. In the meantime, keep taking your prenatal vitamins, rest when you can, and call if you experience any bleeding, severe cramping, or persistent vomiting." After the appointment, they stood in the parking garage, neither quite ready to leave. Miranda clutched the ultrasound pictures like sacred texts. "I wasn't sure until just now if I wanted this, if I could do this." Her voice was quiet. But I heard the heartbeat and everything else just stopped mattering. All the logistics and the fear and the questions. None of it was as important as that sound. Ethan understood exactly what she meant. You're going to be a mother. We're going to be parents. Both of us. Miranda looked up at him. I need to stop thinking of this as my problem and start thinking of it as our situation. Like you said, that's progress. I'm terrified. Me too. They stood there as other people came and went, loading into cars, heading back to their lives. Finally, Miranda spoke again. Would you want to come over tonight, not for anything romantic, just to talk about the baby, about what comes next? I don't want to be alone with this right now. Ethan thought about Sophie, about the homework help she'd need, and the bedtime routine they'd established. But Marcus could handle it. Marcus had told him last week to call anytime he needed backup. I'd like that. I need to arrange childcare, but I can be there by 7. Bring Sophie if you want. I should probably get to know her better if we're going to be in each other's lives. The invitation surprised him. Are you sure? No, but I think we're past the point of only doing things we're sure about. Sophie was predictably excited about the unexpected outing. She changed clothes 3 times, finally settling on her favorite purple dress with the stars on it. In the car, she peppered Ethan with questions. Does Miss Cole have a big house? Does she have a book? Can she cook? What if she doesn't like me? She doesn't have a dis. I don't know about her cooking, and she's going to love you because everyone loves you. Ethan glanced at his daughter in the rearview mirror. Remember, she's going to be part of our lives now. We want her to feel comfortable. I'll be nice. Extra nice, super nice. Miranda's apartment was in a high-rise overlooking the lake. All modern lines and expensive furniture. She greeted them at the door in jeans and a sweater, the most casual Ethan had ever seen her. Her eyes went to Sophie immediately. You must be Sophie. I've heard wonderful things about you. Sophie stepped forward with the confidence of someone who'd never met a stranger. Dad says you're having a baby, and it's going to be my brother or sister. I'm going to teach them about space. Miranda blinked then smiled. I'd like that. Come in, both of you. The apartment was exactly what Ethan expected, immaculate, sophisticated, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a stunning view of the city. It was also completely unprepared for children. Everything was white, or glass, or both. Sophie gravitated immediately to the windows. You can see everything from up here. Dad, look, there's Navy Pier. I see it, bug. Miranda moved to the kitchen, pulling out drinks with the careful hospitality of someone who didn't entertain often. I have juice boxes. I wasn't sure what 7-year-olds drink. Juice boxes are perfect, Ethan assured her. They settled in the living room, Sophie on the floor, despite the pristine white couch examining the ultrasound pictures Miranda had laid out on the coffee table. That's the baby. Sophie traced the outline with one finger. It's so small. It'll get bigger. By the time it's born, it'll be about 20 inches long. Like my doll collection, I have 17 dolls. I could give some to the baby when it comes. Babies like dolls, right? I think so, though we don't know yet if it's a boy or girl. Boys can like dolls, too. My friend James has 3 baby dolls, and he takes really good care of them. He says when he grows up, he wants to be a dad like mine. Ethan felt his throat tighten again. Miranda glanced at him, something soft in her expression. They ordered pizza Sophie's choice and ate while Sophie entertained them with stories about school, her friends, her upcoming science project. Miranda listened with genuine interest, asking questions that showed she was actually paying attention. After dinner, Sophie settled on the couch with her tablet, while Ethan and Miranda moved to the kitchen under the pretense of cleaning up. She's amazing, Miranda said quietly, rinsing plates. You've done an incredible job with her. She makes it easy. She's naturally kind. Ethan dried a glass, setting it carefully in the rack. Thank you for inviting her. I know this wasn't easy. I needed to see it, what you do, how you parent. Miranda paused. I keep thinking I'm going to fail at this, that I'm going to be terrible at being a mother because I've spent my whole life focused on work instead of relationships. You're not going to fail. You're going to figure it out one day at a time, same as everyone else. From someone who makes it look easy. I don't make it look easy, I fake it convincingly. There's a difference, Ridiki. They finished cleaning in companionable silence. When they returned to the living room, Sophie was yawning, her head drooping toward the couch cushion. Ethan scooped her up, and she wrapped her arms around his neck automatically. At the door, Miranda touched his arm. "Thank you for coming, for bringing her. This helped more than you know." "Same time next week," Miranda smiled. "I'd like that." Driving home with Sophie asleep in the back seat, Ethan felt something shift inside him. This was real now. Not just an abstract concept or a problem to be solved, but an actual future taking shape. In 7 months, there would be another child, another person who depended on him, another life to protect and nurture and love. But this time, he wouldn't be completely alone. Miranda would be there, imperfect and scared and figuring things out just like he was, but there. And somehow that made all the difference. The following weeks fell into a rhythm. Ethan and Miranda navigated the strange territory between colleagues and co-parents. He'd bring her lunch when she worked through the nausea. She'd text him ultrasound updates and questions about Sophie's preferences. Sophie warmed gradually, asking more questions about the baby, offering drawings of what their nursery should look like. Then came week 13 late on a Thursday afternoon. Ethan was in a strategy meeting when his phone vibrated. Once, then again, then continuously. Through the glass conference room wall, he saw Garrett Thompson appear in the doorway. Garrett's face was pale. Ethan excused himself. "It's bad." Garrett pulled up his phone. The headline made Ethan's stomach drop. Vanguard CEO's secret pregnancy with subordinate leadership crisis. The article detailed everything. The pregnancy, Ethan being the father, the power dynamic, anonymous sources, clearly Phillips questioning Miranda's judgment. By the time Ethan reached his office, his phone was exploding with notifications. He ignored all of them and called Miranda. She answered immediately. "You saw?" Her voice was hollow. "I saw. Are you okay?" "My career is over, Ethan. 20 years. Gone because It's not over. We fight this." "How Phillips leaked it. The damage is done. Stock's already dropping." Her laugh was bitter. "You should distance yourself. Protect Sophie. Protect your career. I won't drag you down." Ethan stared at the ultrasound picture taped to his monitor. Their daughter. Grace. Worth fighting for. "Too late. I already made my choice." His voice steadied. "And I choose you. I choose us. I choose this." Miranda was silent for a long beat. "The question is, what do you choose?" When she finally spoke, her voice was stronger. "I choose to fight. Together. Together." Ethan hung up and opened his laptop. If Phillips wanted war, he'd get it. But on Ethan's terms, with data, with truth, with everything he had. The investor presentation was scheduled for Tuesday at 10, 4 days after the scandal broke. 40 investors packed the conference room, plus 6 board members who'd flown in specifically for this quarterly review. Phillips sat in the back row, his presence like a waiting predator. The weekend had been brutal. Stock down 12%, clients calling with concerns, media outlets requesting comment. Ethan had worked through it all, pulling data-building arguments, preparing for whatever came next. Miranda had spent the weekend on bed rest doctor's orders after the stress-triggered spotting. She was cleared to present via video, but barely. Week 14 of the pregnancy now. Miranda's blazer concealed the slight curve of her abdomen in the video feed, though everyone in that room knew what was underneath. Ethan was there in person as part of the analytics team, his role to present the data behind Miranda's strategic vision. They'd rehearsed twice via video call, their professional dynamics seamless despite everything happening beneath the surface. Miranda was halfway through slide 12 when Ethan saw it happen. Her voice, steady and authoritative, as always, faltered mid-sentence. "As you can see from our Southeast market analysis, projected ROI exceeds conservative estimates by 18%, which positions us to..." Her hand went to her stomach through the video feed, a gesture so quick most people probably missed it. Ethan didn't. "Which positions us to expand our client base significantly over the next fiscal." Her face went pale on the screen, sheet white in the span of a heartbeat. Garrett, monitoring the feed, leaned forward. "Miranda, are you?" "I'm fine, just a momentary..." Then she looked down and her expression crumbled into something Ethan had never seen before. Pure, undiluted terror. "There's blood, I have to." The feed cut out. The room erupted. Investors talking over each other. board members demanding answers, Phillips standing already formulating his next move. Ethan was on his phone before anyone else reacted. Marcus, I need you at Miranda's apartment now. Call 911 if she needs it. I'm on my way. He looked at Garrett. Take over. I'm leaving. Ethan, you can't just watch me. The drive to Miranda's high-rise took 17 minutes that felt like hours. Ethan found Marcus already there, the paramedics loading Miranda onto a stretcher. She was conscious but shaking her hand, gripping the rails. The female paramedic intercepted Ethan. Sir, are you family? I'm the father of her baby. The admission was automatic, public, irreversible. She's bleeding, possible placental issue. We need to get her to Northwestern immediately. In the ambulance, Miranda's hand found his. The baby, is going to be fine. You're both going to be fine. He said it with more confidence than he felt. Northwestern Memorial's emergency room was becoming too familiar. They took Miranda immediately, Dr. Martinez appearing within minutes. The diagnosis came 47 minutes later, subchorionic hematoma. Collection of blood between the uterine wall and the gestational sac. Baby's heartbeat strong, but Miranda at high risk. Complete bed rest, absolute. No work, minimal activity, constant monitoring. Dr. Martinez was firm. If you don't comply, we're looking at potential miscarriage.
Hôm nay anh trông thật đặc
Miranda's
biệt.
face crumbled. I can't run a company from bed. Then you don't run it for a while. Your choice, career or baby. The doctor's bluntness was intentional. Choose. In the recovery room, Ethan sat beside Miranda's bed while she stared at the ceiling. Phillips wins. The board will force me out. Everything I built, we'll figure it out. How I can't be CEO from bed rest. Can't fight the board. Can't do anything except lie here and hope our daughter doesn't die. The bitterness in her voice cut deep. Ethan took her hand. Then that's what you do. Lie here. Protect Grace. Let me handle everything else. You can't fight my battles. Watch me. Over the next 48 hours, Ethan became a man on a mission. He worked from the hospital during the day, Miranda's apartment at night, coordinated with Garrett on the transition plan, called in every favor he had. Marcus handled Sophie, who took the news with surprising maturity. Is Ms. Cole going to be okay? Is the baby? They're both going to be fine, but Ms. Cole needs to rest. Like when you had the flu, remember? Sometimes bodies need time to heal. Can I make her a card? She'd love that bug. When Miranda was discharged with strict bed rest orders, Ethan moved her back to her apartment and set up what he called the command center. Laptop within reach, phones charged, files organized, everything she might need during her 2-hour daily work limit. This is going to drive me crazy. Miranda watched him work. Just sitting here. Then we find ways to make it bearable. He adjusted pillows. Books, movies work in small doses. Sophie's already planning daily card deliveries. You don't have to do this. I know, but I'm going to anyway. The first week of bed rest was brutal. Miranda fought every restriction, tried to sneak extra work time, pushed back against every boundary, until Ethan found her crying on day 3. I hate this, feeling helpless, watching everything I built fall apart. It's not falling apart. He sat beside her. Garrett's handling operations. The team's executing flawlessly. Your systems work, Miranda. Let them. Phillips called an emergency board meeting for next week. Wants to discuss interim leadership. Her voice broke. He's going to take my company. Over my dead body. The board meeting happened via video call. Miranda from bed, Garrett from the office, Ethan hovering just off camera. Phillips wasted no time. Clearly, Ms. Cole's condition prevents effective leadership. I propose interim CEO. Garrett countered with the transition plan, company performance data, proof that operations continued smoothly. But Phillips wasn't deterred. Beyond operational concerns, this situation raises questions about judgment. Getting pregnant by a subordinate suggests unprofessionalism that concerns me. Before Miranda could respond, Ethan stepped into camera view. This is Ethan Ward. I'd like to address that. Phillips's eyes narrowed. Mr. Ward, this is a board meeting. That just became about me, so I'm speaking. Ethan's voice was level. What happened between Ms. Cole and me is personal. But since you've made it relevant, we're two adults who made a choice. Her pregnancy doesn't diminish her capability any more than my being a father diminishes mine. He leaned into the camera. If this board judges her fitness to lead based on personal life rather than 20 years of success, the problem isn't with her judgment. It's with yours. Kathleen Morrison spoke up. Mr. Ward makes a valid point. Miranda's track record speaks for itself. I move we accept the transition plan and table this discussion. The vote was close, 6-4, but it passed. Phillips's parting words were ominous. If performance slips even slightly, we revisit this. After the call, Miranda stared at Ethan. You just told off my board. They deserved it. Ethan, you could lose your job. Let them try. He sat beside her. I'm tired of watching people treat you like you're less capable because you're pregnant. You're still the smartest person in every room. Miranda was crying again, but differently this time. No one's ever defended me like that. Get used to it. The days blurred into weeks. Week 15 became 16. 16 became 18. The bed rest stretched on, and with it something unexpected grew between them. Small intimacies built in the spaces between doctor's appointments and conference calls. Ethan learned Miranda's coffee preferences. Miranda learned about Ethan's terrible poker face. They talked late into the night about things that mattered and things that didn't. Sophie began staying over some nights, transforming the pristine apartment. Her drawings covered the refrigerator. Her laughter filled the spaces. Her presence made everything feel more like home. But Sophie also struggled. Week 18 brought a call from her school. Grades dropping, fight during recess, withdrawn behavior. Ethan sat Sophie down that evening, just the two of them. Talk to me, Bug. What's going on? Sophie picked at a loose thread on her jeans. Nothing. Sophie. His voice was gentle but firm. The words burst out like they'd been held under pressure. I'm scared you'll have a new family and forget about me. The baby will have both parents. I only have you. And Miss Cole is rich and they won't need us. And you'll love them more because they're new and I'm just me. The fear in her voice broke something in Ethan's chest. He pulled her into his lap. Oh, sweetheart, you are not just anything. You're my daughter. My first girl. The person who made me a father. He waited until her tear-streaked face lifted. Nothing will ever change that. Not a new baby, not Miranda, not anything. How about this? Every Saturday morning, you and I have special time. Just us, our tradition, no matter what. Every Saturday, even when the baby is crying, even then, you come first. You always will. She hugged him tighter. Okay, deal. But that conversation stayed with Ethan. He mentioned it to Marcus, who suggested family counseling. Not because something's wrong, because transitions are hard and professionals can help. Ethan took the advice, found a child psychologist, started taking Sophie once a week. The change was gradual but noticeable. Sophie began talking more openly, started asking questions about the baby with genuine curiosity, and slowly she began warming to Miranda. Week 20 brought the anatomy scan. Dr. Patel confirmed what they'd suspected, a girl. Sophie, allowed to attend, squealed with delight. A sister, hi baby Grace. I'm going to teach you so many things. She pressed close to the ultrasound screen, face glowing. Ethan and Miranda watched their daughters, one born, one unborn, and something passed between them. His hand found hers. Neither pulled away. After the appointment, sitting in Ethan's car, Grace Julia Coleward, that's really her name, Miranda's hand rested on her belly. If you're still okay with it. I love it. I love that she carries pieces of both our histories. That night, after Sophie was asleep, Ethan stayed later than usual. They sat on opposite ends of the couch, comfortable, distance maintained for weeks. Miranda broke the silence. Can I ask you something personal? Sure. What was Diane like? You talk about what happened, but never really about who she was. Ethan considered how much to share. Diane was sunlight. She lit up every room, made friends everywhere, could talk to anyone and make them feel special. He smiled at the memories. She was also stubborn as hell. When she wanted something, she was relentless. That's how we ended up together. She wore me down with persistence and charm. She sounds amazing. She was, but she wasn't perfect either. She was impulsive, made decisions based on emotion rather than logic. Drove me crazy sometimes. His voice softened. We balanced each other. I was too serious. She lived in the moment. Together we worked. Do you still miss her? Every day, but differently now. Back then it was raw, consuming grief. Now it's more like he searched for words. Like missing a limb that was amputated. You adjust, function, but you never stop noticing it's gone. I'm sorry, that must have been incredibly hard. It was, but it taught me what matters. Ethan looked at her directly. Before Diane got sick, I was obsessed with career advancement. 60-hour weeks, missed family dinners. Then she was diagnosed, and suddenly none of that mattered. All those hours chasing promotions instead of being present, I'd have given anything to get them back. Is that why you're so insistent about me staying on bed rest? Partly, but also because I've learned some battles aren't worth fighting if they cost you what really matters. He shifted to face her. Phillips and the board, they're temporary. Grace is forever. Your health is forever. The company will still be there in 3 months. Miranda looked at her belly. I've spent my entire adult life building Vanguard. It's been my identity. The idea of losing it feels like losing myself. You're not losing yourself. You're expanding who you are. Adding mother to CEO, not replacing one with the other. What if I can't do both? The vulnerability was raw. Ethan thought about all the juggling, the constant guilt of never doing either role perfectly. You probably can't do both perfectly. I haven't. There are days I'm a mediocre analyst because I was up all night with a sick kid. Days I'm a distracted father because I'm worried about work. He leaned closer. But Sophie's happy and I haven't been fired. So apparently mediocre is good enough. You're not mediocre at anything. Thank you. But my point is, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to show up and try to. They fell into comfortable silence. Ethan found himself noticing details. The way Miranda's hair fell across her shoulder, the curve of her smile when she looked at her belly, the warmth in her eyes when she talked about Grace. He was in dangerous territory. Miranda spoke first. I keep thinking about what you said, about Diane, about getting those hours back. She looked at him. I don't want to waste time either. This pregnancy, Grace, it's made me realize how much of my life I've spent chasing things that don't actually matter. Her hand found his. You and Sophie and Grace. Figuring out how to make this work. Learning to be something other than just a CEO. Learning to let someone in. Ethan's heart rate picked up. I'm glad you're letting me in. Week 22 passed, 23. The baby moved more frequently, strong kicks that Miranda would grab his hand to feel. They'd sit like that, his palm on her belly, feeling their daughter announce her presence. The attraction grew undeniable. Small touches, glances that lasted too long, conversations stretching late, but neither crossed the line. Until week 25. It was a Wednesday evening. Sophie was at Marcus's house for a sleepover. Just Ethan and Miranda. They'd spent the day working through Garrett's latest reports, bickering over strategy in a way that felt almost flirtatious. Now they were on the couch, closer than usual, sharing takeout from containers balanced between them. Miranda set down her fork. Ethan, I need to tell you something. Her voice was quiet. He turned to face her fully. What is it? I've been thinking about us, about what we're building, and I realized something. She took a breath. Somewhere between the ultrasounds and the bed rest and Sophie's drawings on my refrigerator, this stopped being just co-parenting. It became about us. Her eyes found his. I care about you, not just as Grace's father or my employee or my support system, as you, as the man who researches morning sickness remedies and defends me to boards and shows up every single day without asking for anything in return. Ethan's chest tightened. Miranda, I'm scared to death of this, of feeling this way, of needing someone after spending 20 years
Hôm
not
nay anh trông
needing
thật đặc
anyone.
biệt.
Tears were streaming down her face now. But I can't keep pretending it's not happening. I can't keep acting like you're just here, out of obligation, when every time you walk in that door, my whole world gets brighter. She cupped his face in her hands. I'm falling in love with you, Ethan Ward, and I don't know what to do about it. For a moment, Ethan couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Then the words came. You stop being scared. You let it happen. He leaned his forehead against hers. Because I'm falling too. Have been for weeks, maybe months. I kept telling myself it was just the situation, just the baby bringing us together. But it's not. He pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. It's you, your strength and your vulnerability, and the way you let Sophie teach you about fractions. The way you fight for what matters and admit when you are scared. You. He kissed her then, not gentle or tentative, desperate and certain and full of everything they'd been holding back. When they broke apart, both were crying. This is terrifying. Miranda's voice shook. I know, but we're doing it anyway. He kissed her again, together. Grace kicked between them as if offering her approval. They laughed, foreheads pressed together, and Ethan thought that despite everything, the scandal, the board battles, the uncertainty, he'd never been more certain of anything. This, Miranda and Sophie and Grace and him, this was worth fighting for. This was worth everything. They spent the rest of the evening tangled together on the couch talking about the future, about what came after bed rest, about living arrangements and custody, and how to build a family from their strange circumstances. Around midnight, Miranda yawned. I should sleep. Dr. Martinez would kill me for staying up this late. Then sleep. Ethan stood offering his hand. I'll stay until you're settled. In her bedroom, he helped her get comfortable, adjusted pillows, made sure water was within reach, checked that her phone was charged. You don't have to leave, you know. Miranda's voice was quiet. You could stay, just to sleep. I'd feel better with you here. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. He climbed in beside her, careful not to jostle her. Miranda settled against his chest, one hand on her belly, where Grace was moving. This is nice, her voice was already drowsy. Having you here, feeling her move, knowing we're all safe. Get some rest. He kissed the top of her head. I'm not going anywhere. She fell asleep within minutes, her breathing evening out. Ethan lay awake longer, feeling the weight and warmth of her against him, feeling Grace kick occasionally beneath Miranda's skin. His family, chosen and accidental and completely real. Whatever came next, board meetings or complications or public judgment, they'd face it together. That was the only truth that mattered. Morning came too soon, but gentler than usual. Ethan woke to find Miranda already awake, watching him with soft eyes. Good morning. Good morning, she smiled. This is nice, waking up like this. It is. His phone buzzed. A text from Garrett. Board wants update call this afternoon. Kathleen's leading, should be supportive. Ethan showed Miranda the message. Ready to face them again. With you, yes. She took his hand. With you, I can face anything. The call that afternoon was mercifully brief. Kathleen reported that company performance remained strong, client retention high, employee morale actually improving. The transition plan is working, Miranda. Take the time you need. We've got this. Phillips was notably absent. Rumor had it he'd already been approached by another firm, his departure imminent. After the call, Miranda looked almost peaceful. Maybe this is going to be okay. Maybe we can actually do this. We can. Ethan pulled her close. We are. And for the first time since that Tuesday afternoon in her office, Miranda believed him. The next board meeting was scheduled for the following week, but this time Kathleen Morrison called it not Phillips. The video conference convened at 9 a.m. 8 board members on screen, Miranda from her bed, Garrett from the office, Ethan just off camera. Kathleen opened with crisp efficiency. This meeting was called to address Phillips's recent actions and finalize Miranda's medical leave plan. Miranda, you have the floor. Miranda straightened against her pillows, transformation complete. Vulnerable woman replaced by the CEO who'd built an empire. Thank you, Kathleen. I want to address this situation directly. Her voice carried authority earned through 2 decades. Yes, I'm pregnant. Yes, I'm on medical bed rest. Yes, this has required significant operational adjustments. These are facts. She paused. What's also fact, company performance is up 3% during my leave. Employee retention up 5%. Client satisfaction at record highs. Our transition plan functions exactly as designed because I built systems that work. Before Phillips could interrupt, Garrett spoke. I have evidence relevant to this discussion. He shared his screen. The Business Insider article that broke this story used phrasing identical to Phillips's emails from 3 weeks prior. Text analysis confirms he was the anonymous source. He leaked confidential medical information to force a leadership change. The board erupted. Kathleen called for order. Phillips, do you deny being the source? Long pause. Phillips's jaw worked. I was acting in the company's best interest. You violated ethics and privacy law. Kathleen's words were steel. I'm calling for 2 votes. First, does Miranda Cole retain this board's confidence? 8 in favor. Only Phillips and 1 ally opposed. Second, given Phillips's breach, I move for his immediate removal. 7 in favor. Motion carries. Richard, you're done. Security will escort you from any Vanguard property immediately. Phillips stood furious, but his screen went dark as Garrett cut his connection. Kathleen continued. Miranda, take the time you need. We're behind you. This meeting is adjourned. The screens went dark. Miranda sat frozen. We did it. You did it. Ethan moved into view. Led from bed and still won. We won, she corrected. Couldn't have done it without you, Garrett. Kathleen. That's what teams do. The following weeks brought unexpected support. Emails from employees. Client calls reaffirming contracts. A letter from local business owners organized by Marcus with hundreds of signatures supporting Miranda. The stock recovered within 10 days. But the real victory came quieter. In Sophie reading her textbook aloud to Miranda. In Ethan cooking dinner in Miranda's kitchen. In Grace kicking and all 3 feeling it together. Week 26 became week 28. Week 30. The pregnancy advanced, Miranda's body changing. The bed rest continued, though Dr. Patel allowed slightly more movement as the hematoma healed. Sophie's therapy was working. She'd stopped acting out, started bringing home drawings of their family, stick figure dad, stick figure, Sophie stick figure Miranda with round belly, tiny stick figure, baby labeled Grace. Ethan found Miranda crying over one of those drawings. What's wrong? Awesome, Mom. Nothing's wrong. Sophie drew me as family. Not Miss Cole or the baby's mom. Family. You are family. Have been for a while. When did that happen? She gestured around the apartment that had become their shared space. One day at a time. One choice to show up, then another until showing up became who we are. He took her hand. I love you. I know we said it before, but I need you to hear it again. I love you. I love you too. Week 33 arrived with autumn settling over Chicago. They were planning, discussing custody living arrangements, building frameworks for their future. Then week 34 hit. Tuesday evening, Sophie doing homework, Ethan cooking pasta, Miranda reading a report. Normal. Domestic. Safe. Miranda's sharp gasp cut through the quiet. Something feels different. Fluid gush soaking the couch. Sophie's eyes went wide. Bug, get the hospital bag. Now. Ethan's voice stayed calm despite the adrenaline. Miranda, can you stand? Too early. Ethan, she's not supposed to come yet. A contraction hit visible in how Miranda's entire body tensed. Ethan was already calling 911, giving the address, explaining 34 weeks high-risk water broken. Sophie appeared with the bag, pale but composed. Should I call Marcus? Yes, he'll meet us at the hospital. You'll go with him. He knelt beside Miranda. 34 weeks is viable. Grace is going to be okay. You can't promise? Sophie was 36 weeks. She's perfect. Grace is a fighter. Another contraction. Miranda cried out. Sophie stood by the door looking younger than 7, terrified. Ethan met his daughter's eyes. Bug baby Grace is coming early. It's scary, but the doctors know what to do. Everything's going to be okay. I promise we're together, all of us, no matter what. The ambulance arrived in 6 minutes. In the ambulance, Miranda grabbed Ethan's shirt. If something goes wrong, if you have to choose, you save Grace. Promise me. Her desperation carved into him. I won't have to. Promise. He looked at this woman he loved, facing her worst fear. I promise. The words tasted like ash. Northwestern Memorial's emergency entrance was too familiar. Dr. Martinez met them in labor and delivery. Babies in distress, heart rate dropping with contractions. Emergency C-section. I need consent. No, I wanted natural. Miranda's protest was weak. Things changed. Your daughter needs out now. Dr. Martinez was gentle but firm. I need your consent, Miranda. Miranda looked at Ethan, terror naked. I'm scared. I know, me too. But we're together, remember. Together. She turned to Dr. Martinez. Do it. Operating room. Blue curtain. Ethan at Miranda's head, her hand gripping his. Talk to me. Distract me. Her voice shook. Sophie wants to paint Grace's nursery with glow-in-the-dark stars. She's researching constellations Orion Cassiopeia. Our daughter's going to grow up thinking space is everything. Our daughters, plural. Sophie's ours too now. Yeah, she is. A thin cry cut through the room. That sound. Impossible, beautiful, terrifying. It's a girl, 4 pounds, 2 ounces, small but fierce. De Martinez's warmth was evident. A nurse brought a tiny bundle, red-faced, wrinkled, screaming. Grace's fists waved in indignation. They placed her on Miranda's chest briefly. Grace's eyes opened, unfocused but searching. Found Miranda's face. Hi, baby. Hi, Grace. We've been waiting. Miranda's voice broke. I love you so much. Too soon, the nurse took Grace to NICU for assessment. Ethan watched their daughter wheeled away, still crying, still fighting. Did you mean it? Miranda's exhausted voice. About loving me. Every word. Good, because I love you too. Had to say it again. Now when it matters most. He kissed her gently. You rest. I'll check on Grace. The NICU was familiar from Sophie's early arrival. Same hushed beeping, same fluorescent lights, same surreal feeling. Grace lay in an isolette under warming lights. So impossibly small. Dr. Sarah Bennett approached. Your daughter's breathing on her own excellent for 34 weeks, but her lungs aren't fully developed. She'll need oxygen support and monitoring. Next 72 hours are critical. Can I touch her? Absolutely. Ethan reached through the portholes. His finger stroked Grace's tiny hand. She was warm skin, almost translucent. Her fingers curled around his. Hello, baby girl. I'm your dad. You gave us quite a scare. His voice cracked. But you're here. You're real. And we're not going anywhere. Marcus arrived with Sophie, who pressed against the NICU glass. She's so tiny. She'll get bigger, just needs time. Sophie's hand found his. Is she going to be okay? Better answer this time. Doctors say she's doing really well for being early, breathing on her own, heart strong, just needs to grow. Can I talk to her? Absolutely. Sophie leaned close. Hi, Grace. It's Sophie, your big sister. I know you're in a spaceship bed, but it's keeping you safe until you're big enough. Her voice was gentle. I brought you a picture. Orion, you're a constellation. When you're bigger, I'll teach you everything. She pressed a drawing against the glass stars connected with careful lines. Ethan smiled despite everything. They were going to be okay. Eventually. Miranda was moved to recovery, then a regular room. The C-section had gone smoothly. She'd be hospitalized 3 days. Ethan shuttled between Miranda's room and NICU. Marcus took Sophie home. First night was long. Grace's oxygen dropped twice. Ethan stood by her isolette hand through the porthole praying. Morning brought better news. Oxygen levels stabilized. First bottle 1/2 ounce, but it stayed down. Weight holding. Dr. Bennett was cautiously optimistic. Better than expected. If this continues, we'll reduce oxygen tomorrow. Week 1 in NICU established rhythm. Ethan and Miranda took shifts. Mornings together by Grace's isolette. Afternoons, Miranda rested while Ethan worked remotely. Evenings, Sophie visited, reading through the glass. Grace grew. 4 pounds, 2 ounces became 4'6", then 4'11". Week 2 brought first holding. Skin to skin. Miranda in a rocking chair, Grace against her chest, both crying. She's so warm, so perfect. She is. Ethan captured the moment. Week 3, Grace off oxygen. Breathing room air, taking full bottles, maintaining temperature without warming lights. Dr. Bennett smiled. If she continues, discharge in a few days. 4 days later, 26 days after her dramatic entrance, Grace was cleared for home. Car ride was excruciating. Every bump catastrophic. Every car too close. Miranda in backhand on Grace's chest, feeling her breathe. Sophie had decorated with welcome home signs. First night home was chaos. Grace cried constantly, overstimulated. Miranda struggled with Brownie's feeding gun. Ethan walked the apartment at 2 a.m. Grace screaming, singing off key. Sophie appeared, rubbing sleep away. Is Grace okay? Just adjusting, bug, back to sleep. I can help. The offer made his chest ache. Right now, what helps is you getting rest for school. She nodded, worried. Ethan made a mental note, extra Sophie time this weekend. By week 2 home, they found rhythm. Ethan took nights, Miranda took days, evening handoffs passing Grace like precious cargo. But 2 households became untenable. We need to talk about living arrangements. Miranda brought it up during an exhausting evening. This shuttling isn't working. Grace needs consistency. I agree, but where your place is bigger, my house is Sophie's home. We can't ask her to give that up. But we can't keep living like this. Miranda's frustration bled through. Grace wailed. She's hungry again. I just fed her. Growth spurt. They moved around each other, well practiced, but still stirruping on toes. Later, after Grace settled, what if we combined households move in together? Ethan proposed carefully. Official. You mean live together, really together? Miranda's voice was unreadable. Is that what you want? I want practical. What works best for everyone? That's not an answer. Do you want to live with me? The question hung heavy. Ethan thought about waking to Miranda, coming home to her, building life intentionally. Yeah, I do, but only if you want it, and if Sophie's comfortable. We ask her, together. Next morning over breakfast, will I have to change schools? Sophie's first concern, no bug, we'd stay in our neighborhood. Probably our house since it has more bedrooms. She processed. Would Miranda live with us all the time? Yes. Can I still have Saturdays with just you? Absolutely, that doesn't change. And can Grace sleep in my room sometimes when she's bigger? Miranda smiled. I think Grace would love that. Okay then. Sophie returned to cereal like she'd decided lunch not their family's future. Kids made hard things simple by refusing to see them as hard. They moved Miranda in over 2 weeks. Her furniture looked strange in the lived-in space, but they made it work. Grace turned 2 months, then 3, started sleeping longer, began real smiles that lit her whole face. Sophie took big sister seriously. That's the ceiling fan, Grace. It spins. And that's Daddy making coffee, smells gross. And that's your mom, my mom too, I guess, working. And the casual my mom too made both adults freeze. Miranda looked up, eyes shining. Is that okay that I call you mom sometimes? Sophie's voice went small. I know my real mom is dead, but you're here and you love Dad and Grace, and it feels like your mom too. Miranda pulled Sophie into a hug. It's more than okay. I'd be honored. Ethan watched his daughters and felt something fundamental settle. This was family, not what he'd planned with Diane, not what Miranda had avoided, but theirs, built from crisis and choice and daily showing up. Work stabilized. Miranda returned part-time at 3 months, mostly from home. Board supportive, Garrett handling operations, Kathleen mentoring weekly. Phillips was gone. Company thrived. Sophie's 8th birthday arrived in November. Backyard party. Marcus and kids, Sophie's friends, neighbors who'd become family. Grace attended in purple dress, sleeping in her carrier. Sophie blew out candles. Later cleaning up, you know what I wished for? She climbed into Ethan's lap. Wishes are secret. This one isn't. I wished we could stay like this forever, all of us together, happy. She looked at him. Is that a good wish? Best wish I've ever heard, bug. That night, both girls asleep, Ethan found Miranda on the back porch. She'd wrapped in a blanket against November chill. He sat beside her. Sophie wished for forever today. I heard, Miranda smiled. Think we can give her that? I think we can try. Ethan pulled a small box from his pocket. Miranda saw it, and her breath caught. I know we said take things slow, figure out co-parenting before us. He opened the box, simple diamond ring. But we've been living together 3 months, raising 2 daughters, building a life, and I don't want to wait to make it official. He took her hand. Miranda Cole, you're the most stubborn, brilliant, terrifying woman I've met. You challenge me, surprise me, make me want to be better every day. I love you. I love our family. I love the life we're building. His voice steadied. Will you marry me? Miranda was crying, laughing, nodding. Yes, of course, yes. She cupped his face. I love you. I love this life. I love that we found each other in the mess and made something beautiful. They kissed, a promise of all promises they'd made and would keep making together. 6 months after Grace's birth, Vanguard held its annual meeting. Miranda stood at the podium, Garrett nearby with Grace in his arms. This past year brought significant changes. I became a mother, restructured work-life balance, tested whether this company could thrive with a CEO who prioritized family. Next slide. Results speak: revenue up 22%, employee retention highest in industry, client satisfaction 94%. Applause. But more important, we proved leadership doesn't require sacrificing humanity. Strength includes vulnerability. Family and career aren't enemies, but partners. She gestured to Garrett. Today I'm announcing Garrett Thompson's promotion to co-CEO, sharing leadership. Not because I can't handle it alone, but because sharing makes us stronger. Genuine applause. Later, Miranda's office. Grace asleep in carrier. Sophie at company daycare. Miranda's initiative. Proud of you. Ethan pulled her close. Couldn't have done it without you. Literally, you saved me from myself. We saved each other. That's partnership. Grace stirred, making wake-soon sounds. They both moved automatically. Ethan lifted their daughter. She settled against his shoulder with a sigh. You know what I realize? This story doesn't have an ending. It's just beginning. Every day is a new choice to show up, to love, to build this. He looked at Miranda over Grace's head. And I choose it. Every single day. So do I. She kissed him softly. They walked out together, heading home to where Sophie waited. To dinner and homework and bath time and all the mundane, beautiful chaos. Not the family either had imagined, but the one they'd built through crisis and choice and daily showing up. Their family. Chosen, built, real. And every morning they'd wake and choose it again. Together. Come what may.